Deep quotes that might change how you see life. Sometimes you don't need advice. You don't need someone telling you to work harder, think positively, or become a better version of yourself. Sometimes you just need a different way of looking at something you've seen 1,000 times before. So for the next few minutes, forget about everything you're supposed to be doing. Just listen and think. 1. Your thoughts are not always telling you the truth. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Seneca. Think about how many terrible moments you've experienced that never actually happened. The conversation you were certain would go badly. The opportunity you thought you would lose. The future you were convinced would fall apart. Your mind can turn a possibility into a reality long before reality has had its say. Sometimes the thing causing you pain isn't what's happening, it's what you imagine might happen. You don't have to react to everything. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. Someone can insult you, ignore you, misunderstand you, disappoint you. But between what happens and what you do next, there is a small space, and inside that space is a choice. Not everything deserves your reaction. Sometimes walking away isn't weakness. Sometimes it's proof that something no longer has power over you. You may be waiting for a life that has already started. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Seneca. We spend so much time waiting. Waiting for Friday, waiting for the holiday, waiting for more money, waiting for the right person, waiting until we're happier, healthier, richer, or more confident. And eventually you realize something uncomfortable. This was the life you were waiting for. It was happening while you were waiting for something else. Being busy isn't the same as moving forward. You can fill every hour of your day and still avoid the one thing that actually matters. Answer another email. Watch another video. Check another notification. Make another list. Sometimes productivity is just procrastination wearing better clothes. Ask yourself, if I could accomplish only one meaningful thing today, what would it be? Everything else might simply be noise. Some people are supposed to leave. We often measure relationships by how long they lasted, but perhaps that's the wrong measurement. Someone can be in your life for 10 years and leave you with nothing. Someone else can know you for 6 months and permanently change the way you see yourself. Not every relationship was built to survive forever. Some people arrive to teach you something. Some arrive to walk beside you. And some leave because the version of you that needed them no longer exists. A goodbye doesn't automatically make the relationship a failure. You probably won't remember what you're worrying about today. Think about what kept you awake 5 years ago, the problem that felt enormous, the mistake you couldn't stop thinking about, the opinion you desperately wanted to change. Can you even remember all of them? Probably not. And yet at the time, they occupied your entire world. Today's problems deserve attention, but they don't always deserve ownership of your peace. Comparison has one major flaw. You're comparing your entire life with a tiny window into somebody else's. You see their achievement, not the years before it. You see the relationship, not the arguments. You see the confidence, not the insecurity. You see the destination without seeing the road. And then you wonder why you're behind. Maybe you're not behind. Maybe you're simply on a different road. Failure can be information. We treat failure like a verdict. You failed, therefore you weren't good enough. But failure can mean something much simpler. That method didn't work. That's information. Change the method. Try again. The failure of an attempt does not have to become the definition of the person who attempted it. Most people aren't thinking about you nearly as much as you imagine. That embarrassing thing you said, they're probably thinking about something embarrassing they said. The stranger who looked at you, they probably forgot about you 30 seconds later. We walk through life imagining a spotlight following us everywhere, but almost everyone else is standing underneath their own spotlight. You might be far freer than you think. Wanting more can become a prison. There's always another level, another amount of money, another possession, another achievement, another person with something you don't have. And if happiness always lives behind the next achievement, you'll spend your entire life approaching happiness without ever arriving. Ambition isn't necessarily the problem. The problem is forgetting how to recognize when something is already enough. You don't actually want every door to remain open. Keeping every possibility available sounds like freedom, but eventually, choosing one path means abandoning another. Choose one career, and hundreds disappear. Choose one person, and you stop searching for everyone else. Choose one place to live, and countless other lives remain unlived. That's not necessarily loss, that's commitment. A meaningful life isn't created by keeping every door open. Sometimes it's created by finally walking through one. Your past self deserves some compassion. It's easy to look backward and say, I should have known. I should have left sooner. I should have tried harder. I should have made a different decision. But you're judging yesterday's version of yourself using information that person didn't have. Of course, you can see the mistake now. You already lived through the consequences. Growth means learning from the person you were, not endlessly punishing them. Not everyone needs to understand you. Imagine trying to explain your entire life to every person who misunderstood one chapter. You would never finish. Some people will have the wrong version of you in their minds, and you may never be able to change it. That's uncomfortable. But perhaps peace begins when you stop auditioning for everyone's approval. You know why you made certain choices. Sometimes that has to be enough. The ordinary days are your life. We remember birthdays, weddings, graduations, vacations, achievements. But most of your existence happens between those moments. Making coffee, driving home, talking to someone you love, walking through the same neighborhood you've seen hundreds of times. One day, some of the ordinary things surrounding you right now will disappear. And strangely enough, those may be the things you miss most. Don't wait for extraordinary moments before paying attention to your life. Changing your mind isn't weakness. We sometimes become loyal to opinions simply because we've held them for a long time. But new information should be allowed to change us. You are not obligated to remain the person you were 5 years ago, just so nobody can call you inconsistent. Changing your mind can mean you learned something. Changing direction can mean you finally noticed you were going the wrong way. Growth will occasionally require disappointing an older version of yourself. You don't need to win every argument. Winning an argument can cost more than losing it. Sometimes you prove your point and damage the relationship. Sometimes you get the final word and lose your peace. Sometimes another person isn't trying to understand you at all. They're simply waiting for another opportunity to respond. Knowing when a conversation is no longer productive is its own kind of intelligence. Silence isn't always surrender. Your attention is part of your life. Every hour you give something is an hour of your existence. Social media, arguments, news, entertainment, work. Other people's opinions, We often protect our money more carefully than our attention, but money can sometimes be earned again. Time cannot. So perhaps the question isn't, is this worth my attention? Perhaps it's, is this worth part of my life? You are constantly becoming someone. Every small decision feels insignificant by itself. One workout doesn't transform you. One book doesn't make you wise. One wasted afternoon doesn't destroy your future. But repeated choices quietly become habits. Habits become character, and character becomes a life. You rarely notice yourself changing while it's happening until one day you look backward and realize you're no longer the person who started. Someday will eventually become yesterday. There's probably something you've been meaning to do. Call someone, start something, visit somewhere, say something, change something. And someday feels unlimited because it doesn't have a date, but every someday has an expiration date. Eventually, the opportunity passes. The person leaves. Circumstances change. Or you change. You don't have to rush through life. But don't confuse patience with endless postponement. Maybe the goal isn't to figure everything out. We want answers. What should I do? Where should I live? Who should I become? What is my purpose? But perhaps life isn't a puzzle where everyone eventually discovers the correct solution. Maybe some questions aren't supposed to disappear. Maybe we're supposed to become better at living alongside them. You don't need to understand your entire future tonight. You only need enough light to see the next few steps, and sometimes that's enough. Final message. If even one of these ideas made you stop for a moment, remember it. Not because every thought here is necessarily right, but because the ideas that challenge the way we see things are often the ones worth thinking about twice. Maybe tomorrow you'll disagree with something you heard tonight. That's okay. Thinking differently doesn't always mean finding a new answer. Sometimes it means asking a better question. Thanks for spending these few quiet minutes with Quotillion. Take care of your time. Take care of your thoughts. And every once in a while, question the things you've always assumed were true.